Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The taxes are just too damn high. We're going through a cost of living crisis, or I guess you could just call it hitting the early stages of socialism. You know, this era of overtaxation and massive bloated debt, accompanied with low economic growth. It's been an utter disaster outside of the moments where they're printing all kinds of trillions of dollars to make it seem like the economy's doing great, but really it's just the top, let's call it 10% of asset holders who are really benefiting. Outside of those little moments, it's been absolutely horrible for the average person. People are struggling and they need a little bit of relief, especially on the issue of taxes. And well, folks, it seems as though Donald Trump has heard the call. It's part of the mandate, and he's going all in. We got the one big beautiful bill coming in, but then on top of it, as the negotiations are going through, Ted Cruz decides to put the issue of no tax on tips in a bill and puts it up for Senate vote, and guess what? The thing just passed 100-0, voted unanimously. It's a total paradigm shift. It's not just on foreign policy, but it's on taxes and economics too. There's a philosophy shift happening, folks. Let's have that conversation. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's first start off with the news. Here's Ted Cruz speaking on the Senate floor.
What we just saw is the Senate passing no tax on tips 100-0. Every Democrat voted yes, every Republican voted yes. The way the process operates is when you're seeking to pass something by unanimous consent, you circulate what's called a hotline, and every senator gets the chance to say, are you going to object? And on the Republican side and on the Democrat side, every senator said, nope, goodbye me. And so this is now passed, and we are sending it to the House of Representatives. Here's the good news. With what we just saw now, the certainty that we will see no tax on tips become the law of the land, I think is very close to 100%. As the senator from Nevada mentioned, it is included in the House's one big beautiful bill, and whether it passes freestanding or as part of the bigger bill, one way or another, no tax on tips is going to become law and give real relief to hardworking Americans. So I'm proud of what the Senate just did, and I commend Democrats and Republicans, even in a time of partisan division, coming together and agreeing on this common sense policy. I think that's terrific for workers in all 50 states.
Also got a headline here from NBC News. Senate unexpectedly passes the No Tax on Tips Act in a unanimous vote. Senator Jackie Rosen, Democrat from Nevada, called up the bipartisan bill for immediate passage, and no senator objected. The measure now goes to the House. And you know what? While people are celebrating this, especially people working in the service sector, it's not just about the no tax on tips, folks. It's about a new thought process entirely. A new experiment, a new signal. The political class is finally bending the knee to the Trump economic vision. And tax relief is being delivered. They're extending the wildly successful 2017 tax cuts. Then you got no tax on tips. And the one big beautiful bill is most likely to be passed here following the reconciliation process. And so it's back to prioritizing one of my favorite words, productivity. This is going to be good. Now, I know the Democrat detractors are going on, playing the same fear-mongering games that they always do, right? It's the same argument you'll hear from every Democrat talking head and media hack all over TV. Oh, we can't cut taxes. No, we have too much debt. The debt's going to grow if we don't increase your taxes. We got to increase your taxes so we could pay off this debt, even though they keep taking more money, but then end up spending more anyways. It's not like the increase in taxes have affected the debt. No, quite to the opposite. And that's where we're really seeing a philosophy shift, because the Democrat argument is completely backwards. You don't solve a debt crisis by suffocating the economy. You solve a debt crisis by unleashing productivity, by making America a magnet for foreign investment, by alleviating the tax burden so more money can be spent doing, building, producing. Production is the key, and especially commodity production, as I'm always saying. And this is where the Trump administration is totally changing the game, because it's a brand new philosophy, a different outlook. It's called debt to GDP ratio.
You talked about our debt being on an unsustainable path earlier this month. Won't this bill just make it worse?
There are several components there. So if we unpack it, there is the growth, the potential growth of the debt. But what's more important is that we grow the economy faster. So what we've seen under the past 4 years, and what we inherited, I inherited 6.7% deficit to GDP, which was the highest deficit when we were not at war, not in a recession. So we've been trying to bring down the spending, and we are going to grow the revenue side. So we are going to grow the GDP faster than the debt grows, and that will stabilize the debt to GDP, which even Secretary Yellen and I agree is the most important number.
So when in the first Trump administration, you were not a part of it, but obviously President Trump was, there were tax cuts passed, and the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says that those tax cuts added $2.5 trillion to the national debt and did not, I mean, there's always a hope that it will bring about so much revenue growth that it will pay for itself, but that didn't happen.
Well, we also had something called COVID, so there was a rescue plan.
This is separate from that, though. I'm aware of the COVID trillions.
But the CBO scoring was about $1.5 trillion off. And again, what matters is the growth. And during President Trump's first term, up until March of 2020, we had very high non-inflationary growth. And that's what I think we can have again this time.
Very simply said, if the economy is strong, the debt is manageable. Bingo. That is the entire point, and it flies clearly right over the heads of all these idiotic leftoids and zero finance/business experience bureaucrats. They just want you to give them more money so they could continue to stack more and more debt on your children and the next generation. But the real solution to tackling the debt is GDP growth. You can cut taxes and then find efficiencies in government spending, and the increased business and foreign investment from cutting taxes and making America a more business-friendly environment and production-friendly environment will actually lead to tax collection increases because there's so much more business happening. So you can essentially increase tax collection by decreasing taxes, and of course the key to it all, increasing production of energy, unleashing American resources, not only for domestic products, but also for exporting natural gas, exporting fossil fuels, exporting minerals. And what's interesting is that a lot of people don't seem to remember that that's essentially what Trump was doing during his first term in office. That is before the pandemic numbers skewed the whole outlook, but we saw 3.5% GDP growth, record low unemployment across all demographics, wage growth for the working and middle class, energy independence, energy production at all-time highs, and the tax cuts didn't increase the deficit. COVID spending did. You know, Jake Tapper in that clip earlier with Scott Bessent claims that Trump added $2.5 trillion in debt, but actually $1.5 trillion of those dollars was COVID related. It's not tax policy. And even the CBO admitted that their forecasts were wrong and growth was stronger than expected. There's already a proof of concept. It's called Donald Trump's first term in office before the pandemic. But of course, the Democrats don't want you to know this. They want you to commit to Bidenomics, just endless money printing, $6 trillion in new borrowing, despite no longer being in the midst of a pandemic. During the recovery phase, inflation through the roof, gas prices in the stratosphere, and then of course attack the oil and gas industry, apply all kinds of burdensome regulations, and then talk all year about how you're increasing people's taxes and corporate taxes, and then just watch economic productivity completely stagnate while government spending is up and you're printing trillions of dollars at high interest rates. It's idiotic, folks, and I think the Trump administration is on to something. Spur the economy to increase tax collections, apply a 10% global tariff, meanwhile cut taxes domestically to increase economic participation, then attract a bunch of foreign investment, creating jobs and more tax revenues in the system, and then find efficiencies in government spending, shut down useless departments, cut the spending, cut, and all of a sudden, you have a balanced budget, probably even a surplus in a couple of years. I think they're going to do it. Some people might say that I'm blinded by my bias, and look, that may be true, but all I know is that genuinely I feel like the Trump administration is onto something here, and the results are going to speak for themselves. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.